Voyons. Driving with gloves からのこのエピソードは日本の自動車に関する最初のエピソードです。That was Japanese. Well, at least I tried to say that this is the first episode from Driving with Gloves about the Japanese car. Hi, my name is Cor, and welcome to my channel, Driving with Gloves. I always drive with car gloves. Your question might be, why do I drive with gloves? And my answer is, why not? It is highly interesting if you look back in time to see how the world has changed, even if you do not dig that deep in history. If you look at street pictures from Europe from the 1950s and 1960s, you will notice that you see mostly cars which were produced in that specific country. So the Germans mostly drove German cars, the French cars, the Italian cars. Sometimes you saw a car from another European country or even from America. But Japanese cars you wouldn't find in that period here in Europe. But that was about to change. In 1961, the first Japanese company was founded in Germany, the European Honda Motor Trading GmbH. But they didn't sell cars at first, but motorcycles. The first car Honda presented to the Europeans was the S500, but the S500 was only sold in Italy and Switzerland. When Honda launched the S800 in 1967, they had finally a car for Germany as well. Although this sports car was a trendsetter, it was no sales hit according to the European sales figures, but it showed clearly in what direction the Japanese wanted to go. Although the biggest car manufacturer of Japan, Toyota was not as quick as Honda. They started the production of the Toyota Corolla in 1970, and in 1971 they launched it in Germany. But it was different for Switzerland. Although the Swiss are renowned for their slowness, Toyota already started to sell cars in Switzerland in 1967 with the Toyota Corona RT40. In the first year, the model range from Toyota for Switzerland was the following: Corona RT40, Corolla 1100 and the top model Crown 2300. But in 1970, the year that I was born, Toyota presented on the Tokyo Car Show the first world sports coupe, the Celica. Although it was only a coupe version of the Carina, the design was completely different. It looked like a pony car. And boy oh boy, the Japanese conquered the world with this car.
The Japanese were extremely well in building cars with small engines, so when the oil crisis arrived in the early 1970s and all other car makes suffered, the Japanese took over the world because people were no longer interested in big V8 engines, but in small four-cylinder engines with hardly any consumption of fuel.
So car makes like Isuri Volta were getting into trouble, but Japanese cars were the winners of the oil crisis. But they also made sport coupes, and in exactly such a sports coupe I am driving today thanks to Autovogel in Switzerland, because this is the Toyota Celica ST1600.
The Japanese were very smart. They rationalized the method of production and they used the same parts for different car models. That is why they could increase their production compared to European and American cars. Spare parts were always available, although Japan is not around the corner. But above all, the Japanese cars of that period were so well equipped, so you did not need to spend money on options to almost double the price of the car you wanted to buy.
They had standard a 5-speed gearbox, a radio, disc brakes, a lot of gauges, wood. This was all included, so you got a lot of car for little money. I will be honest with you, I have never been a big fan of Japanese cars. I have never owned one. And the only Japanese car I remember driving myself was an Aston Martin Signet. Am I talking rubbish? No, because the Aston Martin Signet is nothing more than a rebadged Toyota IQ. So let's find out if this Toyota Celica ST1600 pleases me nonetheless like a geisha. I must admit, the car is wonderful to drive. The design language is not quite my taste, but from nowadays perspective, it's quite refreshing. And after all, I adore chrome parts on a car. The car was sold exactly 47 years ago in Biel in Switzerland, and although it has around 100,000 kilometers on the clock, I do not find a single grey hair on this car. So my question is, do Japanese get grey hair when they are getting older?
The four-cylinder engine with two carburetors has a power output of 86 PS and runs beautifully. The car has a standard 5-speed gearbox and it is rear-wheel drive.
This car doesn't have B-pillar, so if you roll down the window, you will get this wonderful open air feeling like you would have in a Mercedes coupe.
I said it already, the Toyota Celica is a bit like a pony car, so it's quite logical that Toyota introduced a liftback version in 1973.
So it became a bit like a Ford Mustang fastback.
But the Celica's steering is way more precise and the gearbox is simply fantastic.
I must say that after driving this Celica, I must correct my opinion about historical Japanese cars. So if there is someone out there who wants to give me a Toyota 2000 GT to make a review about that, I am happy to accept that. But don't you expect me to make a review about a Toyota Prius? I won't do that.
Because this will happen to the person who insists making a review about that car.
Thank you very much for watching this episode from Driving with Gloves. Thank you so much Autovogel in Switzerland for giving me this experience to drive this car today. And by the way, this car is for sale with many other classic cars at Autovogel in Switzerland. Do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel Driving with Gloves if you haven't done that already. See you soon in a new episode from Driving with Gloves. Bye.